Good afternoon, everyone. This is Meg at Chasing Retro. I hope you are all doing very well today. I'm going to show you a flip through of a journal that I have just completed for a customer that reached out to ask if I would make one more spring journal. And of course I said yes. I had plenty of things left over from the spring journals that I made earlier. And she ended up choosing this cover that I already had in my stash. I'm also working on another Easter themed journal for another customer, and you'll see that in a separate video when that one is completed. But I wanted to go ahead and show this to you to make sure that the customer, likes it, and also to show all of you. This one is just a little bit different than the other ones, mainly because it was created in a different time. And I tend to, when I'm making journals together, I'll tend to do a lot of the same things in the journals. But then when I create one by itself, I don't know, I tend to just try things that are different. And I kind of have already forgotten what I did on previous ones. So if you've seen the other flip throughs, you might want to watch this one. It is just a little bit different. It has a lot of the same elements. It has the same number of signatures, 4, 2-inch spine. It has a scrappy tie. It has a removable tassel in colors that match the cover. Lots of fun textures, and I tried to really texturize this one with different types of things. The back of the cover is as it is, as the original. The only thing that I have not added yet, but I wanted to go ahead and get this video out to her before it gets any later in the day. I have not added book corners because this corner is pretty severely damaged. It's been dropped on the corner or something, or just, taken on and off a bookshelf. So I'm going to be adding some silver book covers, and book corners is what I'm trying to say. And I'm probably going to put some rickrack down the edge as well, like I did on the other ones. But that did not influence at all what was inside the journal, so let me show that to you now. This one did have a little bit of a stain on the cover, but it would not come off. It is deep into the fibers of the paper, but to me that doesn't really detract from it at all. It just adds to the fact that this book was well loved. This one is very chunky. It is full. It has a lot of stuff in it. There are 4 signatures. I want to say each signature has, like the other ones, between 15 and 17 pages. 1 or 2 may have a little more, 1 or 2 may have a little less. I'm not really type A about how many pages anymore. I tend to just keep adding until they look a certain way. I'll look at them from the side and I'm like, okay, yeah, this one's good enough, then I'll stop. But I kept finding things that I wanted to add in here, so that tends to happen with me. This is an actual library card pocket that was sent in Happy Mail a while back, and I just decorated it with a watercolor hydrangea. And then here is a journaling card from one of the spring and Easter kits that I bought from Echo Park. But the back of it was carrots and not really journalable, so I added some cardstock. And this is a library card with a quilt piece on it, and this is a felt butterfly. I got these from an Etsy shop called Jen Shares. I'm not sure if she still has any or not in her shop, but then we have a double pocket on this side with a label and some brads. We have a flash card with a vintage Denison label. And then this is another little journaling card. This is from a paper pad. And here we have one of the wall coverings, sort of flip book page. I got this a while back, and it's just some spring floral wall coverings. And this is vintage wallpaper, and I've turned it into a tag and put some mossy trim at the top. And then I sewed some eyelet down the edge of that page. We have a side pocket with this is a book about ducklings, of course, but I ended up putting lots of different springy and baby animals in it. So here's some little chicks. The colors went really well with the journal. Also, a note to the buyer, I have numbered the pages to help me keep track of them. I will go through and erase those before I send it your way. A Betty Crocker recipe card. This just looked like a very springy side dish to me. And then this is a stamping card that I did with some of my stamps that I have in my stash. All of the book pages are accounted for in order. I'd punched this little mini, legal pad sheet. This is from the book that I recently got about roses. And I chose the page that had a lot of the oranges and yellows. Here is some graph paper with some washi tape with gold. Here's a little sticker of a duckling. Here is some light green vellum that I punched the edge of. And this beautiful, I got this paper pad from Walmart actually. The back of it is solid blue and the front is a mint dot. And it's a medium weight. It's thinner than cardstock, but it's thicker than regular paper. This is from a book of wildflowers that I have. And I fussy cut a lot of them a while back while watching television, and I've been using them throughout these. Here's an oval doily. Here is a recipe page from Southern Living from the 60s, and then I've put a whale tail tab. Here's some blue rickrack on some blue graph. Here's a glassine bag. I had this yellow flower in my stash, and then when I put a daisy on top of it, I thought it looked just like a daffodil. So I thought that was pretty cool. A happy accident. This is one of the digitals from Lou at Designs by Lou, and I had an extra one left over, so I put it in here. Here's a journaling card from the paper pack, and it had daffodils and tulips. And then this is a book page that I received in Happy Mail from Sharon a while back of a little lamb. Vintage gift wrap with a gold sheen. A watercolor dandelion blossom. The center has a double pocket, like I sometimes like to do. I did that in 2 of the 4 signatures. And then I put some butterfly cutouts on the strings in all of the centers. This is a book page, and I backed it onto a file folder and then added this little quote that I cut out of a book. And here is some vellum with sort of an embossed image on it. And then here is I just got this at my Craft Reuse store last week, coral colored index card with some quilt squares sewn down. On this side, this is a butterfly punch out. I guess you could use it as a frame or just a decoration. This is a reproduction of a vintage postcard that I printed and then Mod Podged over. And this is some of the wallpaper I was sent in Happy Mail this week, I believe from Dee Dee, so thank you for this. And I made it into a tag and put some sari silk at the top. And then here we have a cluster of, this is some textured paper, and then this is a fussy cut out of Ideals magazine. I just stamped the word joy right here. This is just some mossy trim that I folded in half twice, and then I use couching, which is basically the widest zigzag stitch that I have on my machine, and I sewed it down to a strip of paper. This is an image from a children's Sunday school book, and I sewed it down to a scrap of cloth and put the word wonder. And here is another frame that can be used for a photograph or a quote. Paper clipped here, we have a guest check and a fussy cut from KB and Friends Digital. Bought those a couple years ago for spring. Another one of the watercolor wildflowers. I'm moving my fabric around underneath. Sorry about that. This is an image from a children's reader. The little duck is fussing at the turtle. I don't know why, but I thought it was really cute. This is a paper cluster. Here is a tuck spot. I had a die cut of a bicycle, and then I sewed it down on top of some eyelash trim that I just got. It's sort of a muted spring blend of yarn. And then tucked in here I have one, this is one of my printables in my Ko-fi shop. It's just some mason jars with textures, and then this was a little piece of ephemera I had. It appears to be someone's list of things they were planting. I'm assuming these are, they may be roses, or bulbs maybe. Maybe tulips, I don't know. But what type of flower it was, what coloring, and then when it needs to be planted and how high they get. So that was perfect for this journal. This is a flip down tuck spot. And then this is a tart lemon glaze, handwritten recipe, and an index card with a beautiful still life scene that's very springy, and a Bible verse on the back. It's from First Christian Church, Colorado Springs, but it's published by Current. My mom gave me these, so. Tucked into this envelope tuck spot is a journaling card, and then a little notepad sheet, and I put "Life is full of beauty" and a little fussy cut flower. And then this envelope closes with the butterfly, and there's just a teeny tiny journaling card in here. Here is a belly band with some punched lace, and then here is a vintage postulette with springy farm animals. The colors went perfect with this journal, and there's the little duckling, of course. A Dick and Jane book page. This is some paper that I dyed with Kool-Aid. This is just one of the strips that I like to fold and sew down. April 1953 calendar page, or planner page. A fabric tab. This is a piece of those placemats that I got at the estate sale. This is a Beatrix Potter page. There's Jemima Puddle Duck. Here's a little fabric and lace cluster on this pocket. And then I have sort of a phonics word game card that I've altered. And then this falls out. I got this from Lou as well. Just a little note sheet. This is from a book about bulbs. And then clipped here I have another KB and Friends printable and a little note sheet. Here's a little cluster with some daisy fabric and some strawberry calico fabric. This is from Lana Lobel catalog with some spring fashions. Let me straighten this out again. A ledger page. Make Way for Ducklings book page. An adorable little greeting card that I got at a thrift store just last week, or maybe 2 weeks ago now, but so cute, the bunny and the cabbage. And on the back, I have a tuck spot with a little deer fawn. Here's a yellow punched page. This is from a Denison booklet on how to make crepe paper flowers. This is Scented Drawer Liner from Crabtree and Evelyn. And then some vintage brocade trim on the edge. An ideals page here with a poem, and in the center is another poem. I wanted to leave it as it is. I'm shifting this fabric everywhere. This is a flip up little notepad, and I glued a little bird to the top. Clipped here, I put some strawberry fabric on this paper clip, is a little Monopoly money and another printable from KB and Friends. The other side of that card, and then I made a fabric pocket on the back side and put in another journaling card. This is a ticket from a dry cleaner's, sewn down here. This is a Hallmark envelope that went with that card you just saw, and I just put it here to flip out, and then put in this teacup napkin decoupage music card. Here is an embossed belly band with pearlescent paper. And then this is a digital of a vintage sheet from Molly's Mantel on Etsy. And I sewed a little applique flower. And this is a hem page with a flower fussy cut and a little tab. A paper cluster with a vintage ticket of some kind. I'm not sure what kind, but it's pretty cool. And this is some handmade paper that's been embossed. I did not make it. I was given it in Happy Meal. This is another vintage napkin tag. And this is a little note to self. I got this last week at my craft reuse store. This, I just took some quilt, they're not hexagons, they're like kite shapes, and I folded them every sort of which way and then sewed them to the edge of that page. Some beautiful, I love the hue of this lace. It might be seam binding lace, I'm not sure, but I ruffled it and sewed it down. Here's a pocket with a fabric cluster with a poem on the top. And then a little sheet of deli paper and a flash card. We have a corner belly band here. This is a sort of an ad for ordering a plant, and then this is one of my stencil cards. And I made a shaker page. It tends to settle to the center of the book, but this is some confetti that I just got at Hobby Lobby. And then I also put glitter in here and some seed beads and pastel colors. Here is a side pocket, and I did some, you know, the little foam dots to make it stick up. And then we have a vintage book plate and a vintage canning label. This is a book about your new oven, and I love the colors and the illustrations. And then I stapled a vintage matchbook to it. It's about feed and seed. Here's some wallpaper. I made a pocket out of a reader book page about a pet duck, even though the duck's not shown. I think it was on the next page. This is one of Loose Digital's, and this is from a paper pad. And then here is just a little strawberry note sheet. This is from a vintage magazine. The ad just looks so springy to me for a fruit cocktail salad. My mom used to make this a lot this time of year. And on the back, of course, is a beautiful ad for kitchen cabinets. Computer paper. This is from a Jack and Jill magazine. I made a pocket out of some vintage music, and then tucked in here we have some Carol Wilson note sheet that's embossed and a vintage bingo card. This one barely fits, so. And then this is from my color finding book. I did a little cluster of some fabric with, this is actually from a sticker book from the 70s about farm animals. Cross-stitch book with floral wreaths rather. And then here's a little die cut from Lou, and then I put the little good things ahead on top, and I ripped the edge of this page. An upside down pocket, and then another digital from KB and Friends, and a vintage recipe card. Put some washi on that page. Ideals page. Fabric tab. This is from another children's book. This is one of my stamped flower boxes. This is one of the pages, first time using it, from my professor's grade books. I tore out the pages that were not marked, and I have a nice little stack of them to use in my journals. Beautiful green color. And then some vintage gift wrap and a vintage sticker. This is a tag that I received from Mary at Plethora of Paper. Thank you, Mary. It's a flower fairy on a book page. It's a little tall for the journal, but I loved it and I wanted to include it, so it just kind of peeks out the top. And this is a KB and Friends digital. We have blue butterflies in the center here, and a cluster with some more of that daisy fabric. And then a fabric tag. While you were out, and I happen to have a flashcard with little ducks on it. It's a truck that's stuck with ducks. Here's a little fabric cluster. Yellow rickrack. Here's the other side of that book page. This is why I chose it, because of little ducklings. And then some corrugated paper and a butterfly. Another Ideals fussy cut. Clipped here we have a Project Life card and a KB and Friends digital. Just a little cutout from a book on there. A fabric flip. Here's some washi with lemons. Another cluster. I guess this is more of a pennant or a bunting, but it was a little poem that I had in a book, and I sewed it down onto the fabric. The other side of that music pocket, I stapled one of my laminated butterflies down, and then I have a journaling card and a yellow doily and a playing card. Here's some washi. The other part of that magazine page, I folded it instead of cutting it off. Here's a tuck spot. It is a bunny. It's not an Easter bunny in this book. The book was about Easter, but this was not a very Eastery image, so I used it. And it has a little, he has this turtle pet on a string. And then I just put a little journaling card in here and a folded ledger page. I keep saying ledger, legal pad page. Here is a transparent, not transparency, a laminated pocket with glitter. And then tucked in here, I have a little card, a tag with some sorry, and then some paper that has been run through my embossing machine. This is fabric from a vintage hair kerchief that I found at a thrift store, and I just love the colors. And tucked in here we have a little tag with some watering cans, a little corner pocket, best of cluck, a dry cleaning tag, and a little square of wallpaper. This is wallpaper as well. And then we have a vintage playing card and a tally. This is some marbleized tissue paper. This is the front cover of a doily booklet, and it has the Woolworth sticker still on it. I received this in Happy Mail. It's a beautiful anniversary card that's glittery. Lovely. A little tag with a decoupage napkin in here. And then a little cluster. Oh, and I punched a little daisy on that page. This is a vintage recipe booklet about springtime desserts, I believe. And this pen has a little glass tulip dangle. And then here is a little, I think this is a florist card. And then this is a KB and Friends printable of a little sale tag. This is a weed, but they're beautiful, and my daughter used to pick these and bring me fistfuls of them. I cannot remember what they're called. It might be Devil's something, like Devil's Fork or something like that. This is vintage gift wrap that Lou sent to me. A little tuck spot with a bird, and I put the word happiness, and then this is a wallpaper tag. The center is a beautiful Ideals image of a spring bouquet with a violin and some butterflies. This is a KB and Friends, and I put it on a little brad so it can be rotated out of the way for journaling or putting a picture underneath. This is a cluster I made with a laminated flower and then some other papers. I just made a ruffle out of this ribbon. I sewed some scraps down that page. A cluster with a Mary Martin sewing pattern ad, and then some sewing thread behind it. And then a notepad from the Smithsonian and a sheet of S&H green stamps. Here I just clipped a little die cut of a flower and a little ticket. This is one of my favorite pictures in the whole book. And then this is the back image. Is that not so cute? And then this is a Franken-paper sheet that I cut into a belly band. And then I have this little journaling card. And this is from a flower book, and it's daffodils, and I just folded it so the new owner can use it as she wishes. And then a double pocket in the back, and we have this little thing that is off of a place card. Very pretty die cut, laser cut. A Rolodex card with a sticker. And this is a Kool-Aid dyed index card. The color's really ran, but I like the way it looks. And then I sewed some scrap fabric on the top. This one was also a little bit of a perfect fit, so there we go. Okay, so once the book corners are added and the rickrack is glued down, this journal will be on its way to its new owner. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the flip through. See you next time.